Welcome to this episode of Sales Talk, the TV show where we talk all things sales. This month we have a really exciting episode. We're talking about being a leading voice, being that number one place that your clients go to and you are that reference. Why is this important? Well, you might have heard me say that it's never been easier to sell. Yep, you heard me say it. It's never been easier to sell. But I tell you this, it's never been harder to stand out from your competition. So what we're going to do today is we're going to interview my guest Neil Anderson of Neil Anderson Media, and we're going to find out how using PR can help you stand out from your competition and attract more of those ideal clients that you want to win. Why is that important? Well, the more of the ideal client you attract, the more of the ideal client you put in the top of your sales funnel, and the more likely you are to convert them to sales. Sit back, enjoy this episode, and I'll see you when we're finished. Welcome to Sales Talk. And as you know, this is the TV show where we talk all things sales. Today, I'm here with Neil Anderson. Hi Neil.
Hi Steve, you okay?
Yeah, really well. Thanks for joining me today.
It's a pleasure.
Let's first of all just tell people who you are and what you do.
Well, I work in the world of PR. I've worked on it for, nearly 25 years. I started that long ago. There was no university courses, no degrees. I knew little about the subject matter when I first, kind of fell into it actually after university. Loved it from writing my first press release. I have lost track with the amount of PR campaigns, press releases, you name it over the years. Absolutely love it. Real passion for it, and I think it's more relevant now than ever before, really.
Oh, well, we're definitely going to get on to why is it more relevant now than ever before in a little while. But your company, give us your company name and tell us what you specialise in.
Neil Anderson Media is the name of my company, and we've got various areas of specialisms, I suppose. Do a lot around PR campaigns that can break down into lots of press releases, helping companies keep their profile ahead of their rivals. I do a lot of what we call damage limitation, crisis communication, which is very relevant time at the moment, sadly. Do a lot of publishing, helping companies, people, individuals bring out books, which really kind of sets them apart. So it's never dull, it's never boring, lots of kind of proactive stuff, lots of reactive stuff. Work with a myriad of clients, which I have. I don't think there's hardly a sector that I've not worked in over the years. Everything from, blue chip brands like Mercedes, Hilton hotels, to lots of local government, NHS, lots of individuals, businesses, so plenty of variety.
Wow, it sounds like we've got lots of material to delve into during this conversation. So really looking forward to taking this a bit further. I mean, one of the things you sort of touched on there was helping businesses. Now, how does PR help a business?
I often think it's for me. I've found I've been kind of rediscovered in recent years. I found a lot of companies that have become very kind of carried away by social media. Seen it as the marketing silver bullet, and I found people have often forgot what PR can do. And it's really, it's all about setting your business, setting what you do apart from your rivals. A lot of it is around the ability to write, but a lot of it is, say, if you are actually I know how well you've built up your social media channels organically. That you must put amazing time into that. But you've got the results. But that does take a lot of kind of tenacity, drive, passion to be able to do that. In many respects, what I can do is actually kind of supercharge an individual's or company's kind of story, what they're all about, because I actually use established media channels to actually kind of piggyback on the back of it. So say if a company has got I look at a company, what they're doing, and I think, right, how can I use PR to actually really kind of set them apart? And it's all about trying to find probably the unique selling points of a company, present that in such a way that will actually really kind of get it noticed. And what I'm all about, I'm actually trying to get companies right in front of their target markets, but I actually use established media channels to do that. And established media channels, whether that's kind of magazines, TV channels, bloggers, you name it, I'm all about kind of presenting a company. So, they spot what they're doing and they say, right, we'd like to kind of feature that. So say if I'm doing maybe a story on the sales mindset coach, I'm thinking, right, where are their target customers going to be? Are they going to be maybe in the local press? Are they going to be on a key business website? Are they going to be in the national news, international news? I see where they want to be and I think, right, how can I present them in such a way that will actually get them noticed? So I've had my clients feature everywhere from the New York Times to the One Show over the years. I've picked clients, presented them in a specific way and kind of got them. Instead of, I often promise my clients that, a few hours of my time will get you more kind of traction than an entire year of you kind of posting away on Twitter, because there's ways that I can suddenly kind of get you kind of in front of thousands, 10,000s, of people, within a few hours of my work. And what I use is something called a press release. It sounds very fancy, but all that is actually writing what you're doing, or a particular area of your business that you want to push, presenting that in a particular way. I know that I can help that get featured on a particular website, a particular magazine, a particular TV show. So it's all about, I'm a kind of trained journalist by trade, so I know kind of how to write. I know I can quickly look at a particular news website or a magazine and know exactly what they're looking for. I know how to present, something in a certain way. And I know journalists, bloggers, they will only look at the heading of an email or the first line. If that's not interested, if they're not interested, it's bang in the recycle bin. I know how to kind of get them, wow, we're interested in that. And it's all about, getting past the gatekeeper, and that's what I'm all about.
That's really fascinating. And what I take from that when I listen to it is just how that marries up to the Sales Mindset Coach sales syllabus in a way, because you're talking about connecting businesses and sellers with their ideal prospect, right? So this is almost identifying who it is you want to communicate with and to, and being very, very specific about the content that you're putting in front of them. So it actually supports the sales process. I say to people, it's never been easier to sell, but it's never been harder to get recognized and to get noticed. And what you're describing here are skills that you have that help people get noticed, which in turn creates your sales funnel. SpanCob is what we use, with your ideal clients. Now, if that is just so logical, why do people not incorporate it as often in their sales plan as you might think they would need to do?
I think traditionally, and I was the same myself, that I don't think you can often realise how you can, influence this process. I had no idea that, before I started, that you could actually influence what was written about in the media, what appeared on TV or kind of news shows, bloggers. I had no idea that, that there was this industry behind that. And I found it was, I was absolutely amazed, about, the power that you could have, or, that you could actually take sometimes maybe a new business and a new brand, and you could, with the right press release or the right PR campaign, you could turn them into a household name within a few days' work if you get it exactly right. I was working with a restaurant just before Christmas, and they'd really struggled to actually they'd fallen way behind with getting their opening. It was through no fault of their own. But they were umming and ahhing about how to open, and I kind of chatted to them about about PR, the possibilities, and they only opened. It was only mid-December, which generally would not be a time I would advise at all, because that's when they want to do the bulk of their trade. But it was. But I wrote the press release in a particular way, did the campaign with a particular way, and the amount of exposure, we just hit it exactly right at the time. It happened to be a vegan restaurant, and it was just before Veganuary. And within a couple of days of them opening, they got live TV down there. The amount of media coverage they got, they went on the Facebook site of a newspaper. They were getting 600-700 likes, and this was all within 48 hours. And they were absolutely rammed from the day they opened, and they were crazy all through January, February, and this was only this was just with a few couple of 2 or 3 days of my work. We just and they just could not believe the amount of coverage, the amount of business. And it can have amazing power. When you hit it exactly right, but it's knowing exactly the way, it's getting the language right, it's presenting them right, it's knowing how the media works, and it's keeping an eye on the kind of stories that are out there at that time.
So it's people don't build it into their sales plans as such, or their business plans, because it's a skill that is different to traditional marketing, would you say?
It's a part of marketing, and it can't. I would say it doesn't work for all companies. I know, I normally know at an instant, if it's a particular business that I can help with.
Yeah.
But you kind of know. You think, right, what is this business? What are they selling? Who are their target customers? What are the media channels that are influencing their target? Their target customers. And then I've kind of got a good idea that the bulk, the majority of the time I can do something. And these days, with the impact of digital media, social media, it's made my job far easier, because there is just so much. But putting a story out about a client, it's like a military operation these days, because at one time, you'd probably just got a few journalists to send it to. Now, obviously, you've got bloggers, you've got social media sites. There is just so many people, but the amount of traction that you can kind of get. But say generally, it's a very bespoke service to
I mean that's really interesting, and I took a lot from that. But two things that stand out in my mind: one, it's part of your marketing mix, so it's part of your marketing plan, and one that can have incredible impact by the examples you've given if you get it right. The second one, actually, you're talking about evolution from maybe something that was quite traditional to something that now is, I guess, accessible, easier to do, quicker to do, probably greater reach because of digitalization of the segment, the sector. I love the way what we're talking here about blending tradition and modern approaches. But if I'm a businessman and I'm sat here, business person, and I'm sat here, what would be some of the things that you would ask me to do? What would be some of the things you would advise me to do? We're going to come to top tips later, but what are some of the things, practically, factual things, that you would get me to do?
The first thing I would want to do, I would want to know where your target customers are. Mm-hmm. Where your target customers are, where your existing customers are. I would want to know what they're watching, what they're reading, the things that really influence them. Mm-hmm. Then I would actually be, if they were kind of looking at a particular news website, looking at a particular business magazine, a particular newspaper, what have you, I would be actually kind of looking at the kind of things that they were featuring. And then I would want to know more about your business, what you were actually doing. Then I was thinking, right, how can I fit with something that you're doing with what your target customers are doing? And that's the kind of thing that I'm kind of doing all day long with clients. And I've had clients that it's my job to keep them in the media every week of every year. I've done that. I do quite a lot with bars and restaurants. And I have to kind of keep them, relevant out there, getting more kind of profile than their kind of competitors, week in, week out. Some clients, it might just be, it might be a one-off kind of campaign. So maybe they're they're launching some kind of new service. So again, I'm thinking, right, where are the people they want to reach? How can I present them in a particular way? And as well as I think it all goes down to, at one time, a few years ago, even your, newspapers, magazines, TV news channels, they had a lot of staff. They were very busy, they were very affluent. Newspapers weren't making a lot of money through advertising. Physical newspaper distribution has fallen through the floor, and they've had to lay off loads and loads of staff. But their digital channels are incredibly powerful. The amount of reach that they can get. If I can get a client's news story, even on the digital channel of a local daily newspaper, the traction you can get is amazing. And a lot of the national papers, the national media websites, they all feed off your local and regional newspapers because they have, they've got such big traction. So if I can get a client and their story and all about their news service on these platforms, it can have absolutely amazing reach. So it's all about, looking for these things and being able to make these things happen. But because a lot of these media channels, they don't have the staff, they rely on people like me to actually supply them with the news. So I will often write a press release, and it will appear in a newspaper, on a news site, even on a kind of TV news station. They will not touch those words, and it often won't have my name attached to it, but it will be mine. So I'm actually placing the story, on the news website. So in many respects, I tell people I actually write the stories on behalf of the journalists.
Sure.
So it really kind of cuts out. That's how it works a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I find this really sort of, again, interesting. Just tying it back to the Sales Mindset Coach syllabus. At the very beginning of the syllabus, we talk about your ideal client. Who is your ideal client and your ideal client profile? And at the beginning of that answer, you were talking about that's what you need to understand. You need to understand who your ideal client is, where they hang out, what are their problems, and then you can provide content and stories and articles that then you go into your ecosystem of networks that gets you the reach. And if what we could be doing is looking at how we can use PR to identify and connect to our ideal clients with far more regularity, it only increases our chances to make more sales. And that's actually one of the things that we're really keen to understand in this world of PR, how it helps us make more sales. Because one of the parts in the Sales Mindset Coach syllabus is about becoming that leading voice. And becoming that leading voice isn't just about shouting the loudest, it's actually about creating content that positions you above your competition and makes you that authority. So I find that absolutely fascinating. I mean, if we to roll forward just a little bit, and being in that position of authority, has some responsibilities, and I guess in today's world it has more responsibility than usual because we're in a difficult time right now, aren't we? With the coronavirus, we are in a place where businesses are in a position of having clients postpone work, having their supply chains interrupted. What's the response from a PR perspective that helps us navigate, for many of us, unknown territory?
I think in many respects, I've been writing a blog post a day, and I think at the moment, think before you communicate, PR wise. I was looking at Twitter and Facebook at the moment, and I was seeing the amount of pre-programmed tweets and Facebook posts coming out, which was just totally out of kilter, which should be out there at the moment. So I think really, you've got to be very, very careful, that you actually get it right, that you get the tone of voice right.
Well, what damage does that? What damage does that do?
It just shows you're kind of not on the ball. You're not communicating in the right way, and it's going to damage the reputation if you see somebody that's far more on the ball. You're going to stick with them. But I think as things are just moving, so fast at the moment. We are on totally kind of uncharted territory, and I think I have done loads of crisis PR over the year. I think that's one of the things I've had that a lot of people haven't. I did quite a few years in local government PR, and it was actually in Sheffield, and we were at a time when the town hall had just let Meadowhall open and the city centre retail was obliterated, that the city was being torn up by Supertram. And I seem to spend my time in the communications office actually kind of justifying why we'd actually let these things happen. So I became very versed. I've done crisis communications for the NHS, and it's very much about trying to kind of keep a cool head when it's a very fast-moving situation. But say at the moment it's that fast-moving, it's hard it's hard to know. But I work with a lot of bars and restaurants, and we're going to be very adversely affected. But at the moment, you've just got to make your customers aware that you are trying to keep on top of things. You are kind of adhering to government advice, which is all you can do. That you're going to look after your customers as much as possible. But it's trying to be on the ball. And often, if a company is under the cosh, it's good to have somebody that can just look at things, with a cool head, say this is the thing to say. And in many respects, at the moment, I think if in doubt, don't say anything.
Yeah, that's often good advice, isn't it? And it's very interesting because I've seen, I hadn't recognised it until you've just said it. These scheduled posts that probably were talking more vitriolically or triumphantly or presenting a position that is maybe inappropriate when we've got businesses and people facing tragedies, so it's very interesting you talk about that, keeping it relevant. And social media, very easy to have scheduled these posts and almost forgotten what you've done. So I think that's really, really interesting. And then I sort of also think there's this other side where, and I don't know where I sit with this yet, I'm seeing people who seem to be marketing help and solutions, but marketing the help and solutions at a price. Now, whilst that might be absolutely fair and valid, I wonder, not to put you on the spot here, but as a PR expert, knowing where that sweet spot is it the right time to capitalise on a situation, or is it still premature, is a skill that I guess you've got that we could tap into?
Yeah, I think it's taking everything, on an individual basis. I was working with a client at the moment which was just about to kind of release a new product. I said, forget it at the moment. Let's just leave it. Let's just see how the land lies over the next few days, because it's just moving so fast. And you say, I think you've got to be so careful at the best of times with social media. It's just so easy just to say one word and the whole, Facebook will kind of kick off. So I think you've just got to be so careful. I've got a good idea of the things you can say, things that you can get away with, but things are just moving so fast at the moment.
So I guess a piece of advice is, if you are somebody that wants to be communicating something, stop, think about it, and if you need to, seek advice.
Yeah, and I think in many respects, the amount of people, people it's. I've been speaking to colleagues. I've got a friend who's got a big merchandise company, and she said the sales have just stopped. Just so in many respects, people aren't listening to a lot of stuff at the moment, because all anybody's thinking about is coronavirus. How is this thing's going to help me? So hopefully these things will lift in the next few days. I just remember the final financial crash of 10-12 years ago, and just how this seems fast, but that seemed to go at the same speed. Within 2 or 3 days, businesses, the work had just fallen off a cliff totally. I remember I was sat in the car park, say about 12 years ago, with colleagues from my office or from other business, and they were just open mouth, said the work has just stopped. Just everything has stopped, and it just seemed almost overnight, and it was like this. It was just so obviously this is a completely different scenario, but it was amazing
I think it is a different scenario, only because it clearly isn't just financial, but because we now have this world of social media, and we have this world where reach is possible. We have this world where instantly communicating and getting your message right or wrong, is so real. And I think this is something that is going to be quite a challenge for many people watching the show. Knowing when and what and how to communicate. It might be that actually the business is in quite a difficult position, or it might be you have a solution. And I just think getting that right and knowing how to pitch it and when to pitch it is going to be tricky waters. And I would say make sure that if you have access to an expert or you need to employ an expert to help you, then now is probably the right time, if you can afford that, to be thinking about it.
No, absolutely. And say I've said my latest blog post. Just go onto our website.
Tell us what it is. The website is
NeilAndersonMedia.com. If anybody has got any questions, just drop me a line, and I will be able to tell them instantly. If I think it's a good idea, or if just hold off for a bit. If in doubt, don't say anything at the moment.
That's great. NeilAndersonMedia.com. So let's not forget that. That's a really great piece of value you've just offered everybody there. So if we just take that forward then. So we've covered quite a lot of ground here. And PR is without doubt for me one of the things that I use in my sales mindset coach world. And I'm very fortunate to work with you, Neil, and I vouch for this man's capabilities and skills. And actually, you might remember Funnel Vision, the book. Well, here is the co-author, the ghost writer, however the official title is of what you did. But Neil, you might be known by many of you. What would be your words of wisdom, your 3 top tips for our audience today?
I think in the corona-led times of the moment, I would definitely think before you speak to the media or online. I would definitely think twice about letting your scheduled social media post. And if in doubt, drop somebody like me a line, and I will happily give you some advice on what not what to do and what not to do.
Fantastic. So just tell everybody once more your company and where they can find you.
I am NeilAndersonMedia.com, based in Sheffield, so feel free to get in touch or drop me an email.
Neil, thanks very much. I'm sure you enjoyed that one, folks, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Neil. That was a really amazing episode. I'm sure you, like me, have got so much out of that. I think it's really important that we reflect on how Neil says PR can help in a very challenging environment. And of course, we all know that's exactly where we are right now. Now, if we think about our businesses and our need to stand out from our competition, let's adopt some of what Neil has said as we go forward. I want to help you as well. In my digital program, the Accelerator program, what I'm prepared to do is to give you one of the parts of the syllabus, and I'm going to give you that for free. Within that, the part that I'm giving you is sales in your business strategy. This will give you the opportunity just to look back at your business plan and make sure that it's relevant and applicable for today and for your tomorrow. Make sure that you are looking for and attracting the right kind of clients to make your business a success. Well, join us next month for Sales Talk when we have another really exciting episode. I'll see you then.